Costume is really hot. Hi. Welcome, welcome. Whew, layers upon layers. All right, welcome everyone. We'll get started now, about now. Wondering how you're doing. Wondering how your week is and how life is. And just recognizing that it takes a lot of energy and time to put some space in your life for these kinds of things. And it's a prioritization of what's important. And yeah, I really acknowledge and recognize the dedication and the support and the interest and intention to learn and build and grow in community and in our efforts for social change. So I just want to draw some attention to that and kind of celebrate it. Before we dive into the material, I'd like to ask if we have any agreements that we'd like to make as a group on how we hold the space together. One of the things I usually ask is that we keep any stories that are shared here confidential. We do have the recording, so that will mean that the stories that are spoken in the larger group are shared with the world for learning. But when we go into the breakout rooms, we have small group discussions. In those spaces, it's more private. And I really appreciate if people can, instead of sharing someone else's story, get consent first, or just, take the lessons that you learned from it, but leave the details of the story in those spaces privately for the person that's sharing them. I wonder if anyone else has any other agreements that you'd like to suggest on how we hold the space together. Please speak freely, unmute yourself if you'd like. You can write it in the chat. We're just making requests of the group. If anybody has any requests of the group and how we hold the space together. Okay, well, that's an open invitation. So at any time, if someone has something they'd like to propose to
I have a
consider.
request.
Ben, I hear you. Go ahead.
My partner tried to join right as the thing was starting and
Mm-hmm.
ran into technical issues.
Oh, okay.
She was trying to join, so I'm wondering if you could let her in after a little bit later than the group starts.
Yeah, the door's open for this session because there's not a big privacy concern. So I will keep an eye on the waiting room and um, hopefully she'll be here soon.
Okay, thanks.
My pleasure.
Another one I've heard in space is hold both your intention and your impact. And that, just being mindful of both.
Oh, that touches me so, so deeply right now because I'm struggling with that in some community spaces on how to be considerate of how we work within the spaces and how it impacts everyone, as well as the intentions we have when we're sharing. So thank you so much. I love it. Anyone else? Okay. Great. And I see Anna has asked to change their name. Anna, I think I may be able to rename you. So I'll just remove. Sorry to speak that out loud in the group. Because I saw it was a private message and I didn't see it until after I started speaking. Okay, these are all details of fun details on how to orient ourselves when we're trying to hold a space in a way that kind of supports everyone having different levels of inclusion and privacy. So just keeping that in mind as it's also an opportunity to learn. So in the chat, I have posted my website, and in that website, there are two documents that I want to share with you. You can download them as PDFs. And so you go to that link and go to the very bottom right before the gift share option, and it says resources. One of them is a needs analysis toolkit, and the other is social change role play. And the role play social change document is are the details for the directions that we'll be practicing today. And the needs analysis document is one that kind of supports that. So it has a vocabulary that we can use to describe the needs that we have as human beings or just living beings, really. It has feelings, a list of words that we can use to describe our emotional feelings, our physical sensation feelings. It has the framework that we use to describe nonviolent communication. I'm sharing it in the chat again, which is a kind of 4-step framework that we won't be going over here, but it'll be incorporated in the practice. So you'll be able to understand it through that practice. And then how to make successful requests, some characteristics of requests that can help to support it being more effective. There's also a couple of other documents in there, but we don't have to pay so much attention to those. And then the other document, which is the social change document that we're working with today, is a kind of a step-by-step approach that we're going to practice today. We're going to practice it here in the large group together. We're going to pick some social change issue that we want to discuss as a group. And then if there's time, we're going to try to do some one-on-one role playing in small groups, which I think there should be. Does anyone have any questions about the supporting material for today's session? And we'll go through that social change document together. So you don't have to look over that right now.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Do you want to share the documents or you asking us, are we have it or?
Anna, yes, they're in the website that I linked in the chat. Do you see the Resonant Movement website? If you go to the bottom of that page, you'll see resources. And underneath the resources, there's one that says social change role play, and the other one says needs analysis toolkit. Both of those documents can help us today, but the most important one is the social change document because it's a step-by-step exercise that we're going to practice today together. If you
Okay, so
support
you
with that,
give the link, yes?
what's that?
You told to open the link? You said?
Yeah, they're both PDFs. You can download them or you can just open them and view them through your browser.
Okay.
So which ones do you want us to, I'm all confused. I think I got, oh, it just got large on me. The resident movement. You want the mission, vision, I don't know.
Oh, if you go down to the bottom of the page, you'll see the title is additional resources or something like that, something to do with resources. Underneath that, there's 2 documents. One is social change role play, and the other is needs analysis toolkit. Both of those documents are useful.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so before we dive in, I wonder if we can take a moment, just center here in the space. So I'd like to invite you now just to we're going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to set the timer. And I invite you to turn inward, focusing on your body, focusing on what's going on in your mind, noticing what's coming up for you, whether it's physical sensations, whether it's emotions, whether it's thoughts, and just recognizing, being with yourself, seeing if you can bring some relief using your breath to the spaces in your body where you may be holding tension. And the invitation is to scan from the top of the head all the way down to the tips of the toes, noticing how the body is feeling, and then if anything else comes up. I'm not going to guide you through this. I'm just going to let us sit in silence. Actually, I'm going to guide us through it. I haven't done that in a while. Does anybody have any objections to me guiding? I know some people don't necessarily like that. Okay, great.
It's
If you do,
okay.
thanks, Anna. Okay. So now I invite you to center, turn inward. You can take the soles of your feet and plant them on the floor. Notice your hips in the chair if you're sitting down. Shift your shoulders over top of your hips, lengthen your spine. Feel an opening in the front of the body. Just notice the breath. Take a deep breath in. Slowly release it. Just keeping that breath nice and deep. Feel the inhalation, expand the rib cage and the lungs. Maybe your shoulders start to drop with that inhale. And as you exhale, notice the softening that happens in the body. Deep breath in, expanding the heart, the rib cage, and the lungs. And slowly releasing it, letting go any tension you may be holding. Now let's take our attention to the soles of the feet. Notice your feet, notice your toes, notice the weight of your body. No need to judge it, no need to change it. Just recognize what's happening. How do your feet feel? Now moving the attention up the legs to the ankle, to the calf and the shin, and to the knee. Notice that part of the body. Are you holding any tension? How does it feel? Moving from the knee up the thigh. Notice the muscles, the hamstring, the quads. Towards the hips, moving into the hips. Are you holding any tension in your hips? Take a deep breath in. Slowly release it. And then notice the belly, the diaphragm, the internal organs. Feel the weight of the body once again. Heavy on the sit bones. Soften, relax, release. Moving up the spine to the shoulders and the neck. Notice any tension you may be holding there. Try to relax it. Try to release it. Take a deep breath in. Soften the shoulders with the exhale. Now from the tips of the shoulders down to the tips of the fingers, notice any tension you may be holding in your arms, in your hands. Can you take your attention to the palms of your hands, recognizing what's happening with your hands? Can you soften them just a little bit? Take a deep breath in. Slowly release it. And then back up from the tips of the fingers all the way to the crown of the head. Notice your jaw. Try to relax it. Let the tongue fall to the back of the mouth. Let the cheeks and the chin be heavy and loose. Feel your eyeballs deep in the sockets of your eyes. Try to soften them. Relaxing the top of the head. With the next inhalation, I invite you to imagine there's a string coming from the crown of the head, a golden string, connecting you with the heavens to something outside of yourself. With your inhale, feel that lengthening of the spine, being drawn towards the sky. And then exhale, slowly release it. And when you're ready, coming back to the room, back to the circle, back to the group. Any feedback is welcome. How was that for you? Refreshing, supportive, too long? Happy to hear anything that you have to share. Okay, now I'd like to invite everyone to a small breakout room, just to take a moment to say hello with other members of the group. I'm going to assign everyone to a breakout room. If you don't want to speak up, that's okay. It would be nice if you did participate in the community a little bit, so speaking up would be wonderful, just to say hello. Maybe share how you are doing or how that exercise was, or just something about how your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, what's going on inside of you. And then if there's anything that you'd like to share about why you're here today, what's your intention behind being here? I'm going to open the rooms now. We'll have about 10 minutes. It's about 3 to 4 people in each room, so everybody will have about 2 minutes to speak. If you get in the room and nobody else wants to share, there's a button in the bottom that says ask for help. I'll zoom in and we can share together. Welcome back, everyone. Oh, some of them, not everyone. Okay, sorry, a little early. How was your share? How's it going? Good? Great. And if you'd like to share what kinds of intentions you have, I'd love to hear that, because that'll help me to shape how we hold the space together and how I guide us. So feel free to unmute yourself or write it in the chat. What are your intentions for being here today together? What is it about social change that is of interest for you? Welcome back, everyone. So I'd love to harvest from that and find out if anyone has anything that they are really interested in learning about or discussing, or what is it about social change that attracted you to being here with us? Feel free to write it in the chat. You can speak. Just unmute yourself and speak freely.
Is it okay if I go ahead?
Please.
So I guess the thing that brought me here, I'm guessing everyone will resonate with that, is it's kind of getting harder and harder to live in the kind of world that we're living in. Both our immediate environments and like the global scale changes that are happening. And as much as I've been spending all my energy trying to make sense of it and trying to find my micro bit that I can do in it, I feel like there's a lack of support system from like that I personally have access to, doing my work. Like there's a lag. I learn from people online all the time. Like that has been the life affirming move for me in the last couple years. But then I also was looking for, integrating with those people live and, trying to form a network, something that I guess exists on some level, and just like integrating that into my day-to-day life. And I see a lot of possibilities here, just by the kind of connection that we've built, even in small sessions like an hour or like 2 hours, and listening to each other. It's nothing short of life affirming for me. So that's what brings me here.
Mm. I hear community is really important to you. Is that right, Kanal? And support.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, that brings me some relief because that's just us doing it and I don't have to do anything extra special. Okay, cool.
For
Well,
me,
did somebody? Oh, please, Natanya.
oh, sorry, I thought somebody. For me, what helped me is I wanted to connect to myself. And when I read Marshall's book, I connected. I knew he was talking the truth. I got so excited. And I've never been like that before. And then I also believe what this country's doing, what the world is doing, is the same thing. And I value the integrity. Otherwise, you have people killing each other and hurting each other. And I don't want that. It doesn't matter. My heritage is Jewish, but that doesn't mean I have to be a certain way. And we have options of being humanity. And that's what I want, not you're on my side. And I also, with MVC, I found people who can deal with PTSD, which I have. But it's important to follow through with it. And I haven't been trying to make the world, other than through myself, a better place. So this is reflective. If I want peace, then I have to go to a larger community
Hmm.
and integrity.
Thank you, Natanya. I appreciate your sharing. And I heard, yeah, the that you value honesty and clarity, and it sounds like recognizing the humanity in each of us. And then through our practices, we've become more and more open to seeing each other as human and not putting labels or separations between us. Is that right?
Right.
Thank you for sharing. Well, that's a great transition to the big question for today from you is, how do we define social change? What does it look like to work in social change? What do we want when we talk about social change? So let's find some common definition to use today. So what is it?
For me, it's just like I described myself, what I want really for me is what I want for the world. And so if I can't keep on bringing it back to me, um, it just because Israel's fighting for something doesn't mean I can't support integrity and honesty with the Palestinians. And so I go from me and I pop back and forth for the honesty and integrity
Thank you.
because it's no less or more than what each of us inside needs or wants,
Hmm.
I think. Well, for me.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Anyone else? What else? What else is coming up when we talk about social change? What does it mean? I hear honesty and integrity.
I'd like to connect some dots if I can. I feel like social change, when I got introduced to the concept of social change, which broke out of the individuality of my life, it felt exactly the same, but just on a different scale. So, the needs that humans have, that you can feel in yourself, and the love that you would want, and the care that you would want for the people that you're currently attached to, be it family or friends, when you connect that to every life form, every being having access to the same, it's that simple for me. And then I guess through that you learn how systems work. And then if you find problematic systems that are creating harm for people, it not the next step automatically becomes on how to change such systems. And like there's 20 different ways that you can go about it depending on the perspective that you come with, but it's all in the same essence, I feel.
Hmm. So two things, Canal, I hear from you is how we are interacting in systems all the time, and how we interact with them is determining whether or not it's serving us or not, whether or not it's a functional, healthy, sustainable system or not. And then also this idea of, I think it's locus of control, like what do we have influence over? And how can we make change in the things that we have influence over? And then how does that ripple out to the larger, bigger systems that we're a part of? And maybe one day we get to a place where we're influencing the bigger systems in a way that's really impactful. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I think of social change, or I think when most people think of social change, they think of this big, huge, like we're changing the political systems of a government, or we're going to stop people from polluting, or, like it's these big global issues. But how many of us in the room have impact and capacity to be able to, willingness and capacity to be able to go it to that level and make change at those? Maybe it can be like frustrating or feel hopeless if we think about it in that way. But if we think about it, like Kunal just said, about like everyday interactions, everything that we do in each little situation, every decision that we make is contributing to the larger system, collective system that we're a part of. So how do we like really take responsibility or accountability, and in those little situations, every time we're faced with a decision, choose one that's supporting our values in integrity, with honesty and care and consideration, and all these values that kind of support healthy systems. And then we can even take it to the microcosm, and like inside of us, how are we honoring all the different parts of us? How are we accepting and supporting all the different, if we look at internal family systems, for example, the different people or parts of, the things that are speaking up for their needs inside of us? Because we can have internal conflict, just like we can have conflict outside of us. And so how do we care for all, all the parts of us that are showing themselves, and the needs, all the different needs that we have? And recognizing it starts with me. That's what Marshall Rosenberg used to say from, the School of Nonviolent Communication. Social change really doesn't have anything to do with anything outside of me. It starts with me. All right, so I pulled a definition
Love that.
off of the internet just to help support us And this is what the world thinks social change is. Social change refers to the alterations of societal norms, beliefs, behaviors, and social structures over time. It encompasses changes in cultural symbols, behavioral rules, social organizations, and value systems. But again, we can take that from the micro to the macro. And so just applying it and recognizing the locus of control as being key to being able to feel like we're actually able to change things, have control or power, the ability to make change. Does anyone want to add anything? I'd love to hear your voice. Liz, I see your hand.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm on my phone.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, I was thinking of it like as fractals when you were talking about the microcosmos going to the bigger cosmos, macrocosmos. So I thought about it like fractals, and even our cells, our systems, and how healthy are they? And then our tissue, and then our organs, and then our systems, like the circulatory system, the respiratory system, and then our emotional system. So all of those are systems, and it starts with us and the inner conflicts, but also they are also affected by external factors. So it's like an integration where all our needs can be met, where we can all share with this kind of shared reality of humanity. Well, and not only humanity, but also with other beings, all forms of life. But it's just like a fractal kind of thing. How healthy are we from the very small things to the bigger ones? And it's that reflection. So I see we are kind of ill in different ways. So social change would be like integrating like healthier processes where we can all interact. Well, that's what came up for me.
Thanks, Liz. I love that. Breaking it all the way down to the cell.
I had an idea the other day that in order to create real profound social change, I think a very effective strategy might be to look at people who are very disempowered in our society, people who are sort of like don't have privilege, unprivileged people, and to help them in a similar way to the way that Marshall Rosenberg helped, generally more privileged people to be more in touch with their emotions and their communication and that sort of thing, and to start something there, because people who aren't experiencing privilege and who are oppressed and who are denigrated, that's really where the rage is in society. That's where the real desire for things to change actually exists, the real passion, the real impetus for change. So I'm thinking there might be quite a lot of potential in focusing on that in particular, as a way of gaining momentum.
Yeah, I think that relates to what was just shared a moment ago about, going to making sure every bit of us is healthy. If we consider us ourselves, or if we consider us society.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amber, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for this topic. What come up for me, it's some empowerless around how can I have some impact in the society around, around the social change, because, I see myself the most of the time as a victim, and I don't have any power to contribute, or outside of the listen people maybe. And that's sometimes I feel it's passive, but it's not. It's active to listen people and be heard people in the community or whatever, friends or whatever, because nonviolent communication give me more space. And maybe in this society it's enough, because it's not a society where the people listen each other. Now I get some way. Yeah. I don't know. But other than that, I don't know right now. Yeah.
What comes up for me as you're sharing, Umbra, is the real tangible value of listening in a way that supports others and how it creates connection and can really build bridges when it's hard to build bridges with another person. If you just, even if they believe something completely opposite of you, if you are able to listen and they're able to recognize that you are listening, whether that's through active, listening, or whether that's through reflection of what you've heard, it's just incredibly powerful to build a connection between two people or two things that wouldn't necessarily have a very strong bond.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Again, I see your hand.
Yeah. So it also makes me think of like radical empathy, and I feel like that's what I've been hearing as well from other people's shares. And I think both empathy for the other and for the self as like, because social change, because it really is such a mind shift. And it's also like a lot of cognitive dissonance between the stories and the systems we have been told that are correct and are true. And then compared to like what we are actually seeing in real time about said systems and their impact on the individual, whether that's yourself or others, whether in your community, outside of your community. And I think the empathy that I just want to like throw in here as well, because that is such a shift and because it is such a thing that holds so much tension in the mind, it requires so much empathy for yourself as you are practicing social change. Just because you are butting up against systems, you're butting up against the systems within yourself that have told you certain narratives. And it takes time. It takes time to live within the future that you are trying to create. It takes so much time to like actually have that be in your mind, and then also others too. Like not everyone's going to be on your exact same journey or in your exact step of said journey. So when we're talking about social change and folks who are incredibly impacted from the system, like that is so much, right? And it's not always going to be a nice conversation. It's not always going to be like folks like operating at their best. Sometimes their best is survival. And so just acknowledging that within our social change, just like frameworks and just like, yeah, holding all of that at the same time.
Thank you, Michaela. Yes, I hear the value of empathy, not only for ourselves, but also for the others, particularly if the others are people that have been continuously, constantly oppressed by the systems and structures that we're trying to transform. Kunal, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank everyone who just spoke. It landed right into my heart. It was so beautiful, lovely. And I just want to extend what Ben said because there's a picture in my head that I want to share with everyone here. So we grow up as individuals, right? When we're born into families and then we are given an identity that you are this, you come from this background, X, Y, Z, da 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 da. And then one day we just wake up feeling separate from everybody, and that just does not feel right. To connect that to what Ben said, I'd say that when I had that realization, I saw that I was leaving out a lot of me to to fit into that identity that made sense to everybody else around me. And then when I extended that outwardly, I saw that if we start from the margins of society, everyone that has been othered by society, I feel like that is the trail to liberation for everybody. If somebody is isolated in a political system, we integrate that with like socioeconomic systems, we integrate that with psychological systems, we integrate that with family systems. And when we connect those dots, I feel like nothing is left behind. And I can't feel liberated without connecting all of that and, working with all of it. And just like the person who spoke right before me, I'm forgetting their name. but they said that there's so much, right? And it is so much, and it's okay that it's so much because it's not on us. We play a part in that syncytium or that biome that is created, you know? And everybody just fits in like it's like a puzzle coming together without even knowing what the final picture looks like. But you just know that this fits right. And then you move ahead a little bit more. It looks like that for me. So I love to hear that in different ways already resonating.
Thank you. Yeah, I really, one of the things that stood out from you from your share, Kunal, is this importance of recognizing that we are just bits of this bigger system. We only have a locus of control of so much to have power over, and that each tiny step that we make towards more liberation for ourselves and others is contributing to that larger system. So it's like we may not be able to measure it, we may not be able to see it, but it and it may be frustrating. It's like, oh, when is this going to end? Like Michaela said, oh my gosh, we don't like you just don't recognize some of the tiny steps and how they're actually impacting the world around us. But having trust and I don't know, trust in something that the work that we're doing is making some kind of positive change. And then seeing it in
I think that
ourselves.
exactly the trust I feel comes from the change that we see right inside, like one cell of our body when we feel a little bit better, when we be honest or a little bit more authentic, or that we automatically sometimes showing up in spaces allow somebody else to breathe a little lighter. That is the evidence for the trust, you know? It's a movement. Yes, Liz, I think, wants to connect to that.
Wonderful. Okay. I'd like to dive into the exercise now, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to share. This is really fun, though. We could talk about
Just
this.
to say something, Leanne, if I
Yes, please.
um also I'm off camera because I just woke up, but I'll be there while I talk. I'm in California. It's really early. What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm sitting with the difference between social service and social change. It's something that came up in conversation a few days ago with my friends, and I think the awareness of what it is that I'm doing brings me some peace, because sometimes I'll be saying that I want social change, but really my actions are just about doing social services. So, like feeding folks or providing shelter or giving some money here and there, and just acknowledging that they're both needed. Like, yes, on one hand, social services are needed to reduce suffering that's ongoing now. And my heart longs for social change to reduce suffering that will continue to come, and putting action into both sides of it. But also reminding myself that social services are not enough. And like, if I truly want social change, I also need to put action into the other side of things. And what that looks like for me is different for everybody, and like what I can do in my life and my lifetime. But I think right sizing myself is part of the what helps combat the feeling of I don't have impact or there's nothing I can do. Like, there are daily things I can do for social services, and the social change comes like at a larger scale. Just wanted to offer that to the group as something that has given me grounding in the last, I don't know, I had this conversation like 3 days ago.
Thank you, Angela. That's a really important discernment for me too, is to recognize that there are these two parts, and one is maintaining the system to support the people that aren't being cared for, the parts that aren't of the society that aren't being uplifted and given equal opportunity and all of these things. And then there's the other, which is what we're talking about, the social change. How do we change those systems so that they can start to incorporate more of those needs that for the people that aren't being supported? Patrick, I see your hand.
I think behind that, what you're talking about I feel that the intellect needs to go to the heart. And if you're servicing a person, I worked in social services many years. You have to treat them like you would treat yourself and go to your heart. Sometimes you go to your heart too much, but to balance it, it's about a balance game. Because if I take all these ideas, they're great, but it's to feel it, to feel what you're doing. And if you want to give too much, that doesn't help either, or not give enough. So you have to find your own balance. Otherwise, we becoming intellectuals, figuring out how to save the world. And it's the emotions that most people respond to.
Thanks, Natanya. I hear that connection to the heart is really essential for not only being able to serve well, but also probably to keep us motivated in our service.
I
Patrick.
wasn't talking about motivating us. I was talking about being honest with them. So if I'm helping someone, I did child abuse prevention. It has to be, I have to be connected to myself. And I went to a home that they hated my guts. The foster mother was an aunt, and I wasn't allowed in her home because I was Jewish and white. And so I interviewed her daughter and the kid, and I knew this kid was fine. And I knew, and then by the time I left, they came back to me, the foster mother. I could come to her house anytime. I wasn't dissecting them. I was talking to them, trying to find out. I wasn't being overly heartful, but I was being analytical heartful. I don't know how to explain it, because if you do too much, they become helpless, and you support that, and we don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be healthy.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just gonna I'm gonna ask if we could save that for a little bit later because we have a couple of things to work on together as a group. Is that okay for you?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your experience. Patrick, would you like to share something?
I just wanted to say that I really connected with what Angela said about kind of the balance between social change and social service. I am a behavioral health clinician, and I work at a hospital, and it's very kind of interesting because in my training, in my sort of background, um, I feel like I'm more oriented towards the process of change. So like longitudinally, what does change look like? How is change initiated and sustained? Um, but then I work within a medical system where there's very much a focus on like it's very outcome oriented. And I want to be clear, I think that's a good thing. You know, if someone's in the ED and, you know, their blood pressure is going down, in the moment, what's important is you get their blood pressure down, so on and so forth. But it's something I have to balance a lot because there is, I think it's gratifying personally to believe that change is something that can happen just by telling someone the right thing or doing the right thing at the right time. But change is a process and it's sustained by relationships and community.
Thank you, Patrick. I love that application of what was shared earlier about how in your day-to-day life, how you see how service is essential, but those small changes that you can make in the way that you're serving people can actually ripple effect out into the community and then maybe beyond that. Is that right? Great. Thank you. So the importance of our tiny little decisions and how we interact with the world really does influence the systems that we're a part of in the collective, I think. And if we want to take it deeper from the micro to the macro, is the world outside of us just a mirror of what's going on internally, right? Like, and if that's the case, which is kind of woo-woo, right? But if that's the case, then that's exactly proving our point. It starts from inside of us, and then the world outside of us will start to reflect how we're caring for ourselves and the people around us. Okay, let's dive into the exercise because we have, oh, I see your hand, Mike.
Hi, Leanne. Hi, everybody. It's really good to be with you here today. It's really good to see you. I wholeheartedly agree with you when you say that it starts with us. That it starts with me. I have no control over other people's stuff. I have control over my stuff. And what I do have control over is how I take in other people's stuff. How much value I give it, how much weight I give it, how much weight I give to those words. That's up to me. How I decide the value that I'm going to give. So if I'm dealing with a narcissist, for instance, I'm probably not going to give a whole lot of weight to their words. I'm probably going to try to find some common ground. I'm probably going to try to find some common needs. But if they're just trying to get under my skin and get me riled up to get, control over me, then I'm just going to have to let that roll off. If that makes sense, I'm hoping it does.
Yeah, you're being responsible for ourselves and the resources that we have in a way that supports ourselves. Is that right?
Yeah.
We're in relationship with someone who's not serving us and that's taking away our ability to meet some of our needs, then maybe that relationship isn't one that's healthy for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to decide what that relationship's going to be like because I have a part in it. I have a part in every relationship I have. I have control over my part. I don't have control over other people's parts. And that's just a really important distinction that I just wanted to make. So thanks.
Great. Yeah, and I want to just add a caveat to that sometimes we don't have full control. Whether that's because of the structures that are in place that stop us from being able to meet our needs, or whether that's because of our own internal boundaries and barriers that are built from the traumas that we've had and the culture that we live in, or there's a lot of caveats to that, but it's definitely important to consider how we are empowered and what we are empowered to be able to do and how we use that empowerment to be able to serve ourselves and our needs and also others.
I just want to say, just because I have power over my own thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs doesn't mean that I can skillfully exercise that power 24/7.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's what you're talking about caveats. Yeah, but it all comes back to where we started. It begins with me.
Yeah.
It all starts with me. So, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and just a little side note to that too is the human part that Natanya brought up earlier, you know, that we're all human and the humanity of it all, and that we're not perfect, and there's forgiveness opportunities and understanding and compassion, like Michaela said earlier, you know, this, or empathy. Like, how do we realize that we're all learning and growing and being able to be accepting of that? A big part of the process for me has been that acceptance of like, okay, I'm not a terrible person because I screwed up. It just happens sometimes. I think that that grace is a big part of this process. And through building empathy for the other, through helping them to potentially see our human side of us, then maybe we can restore you know, the disconnections that we've had, the breakages, because we all have, I can say, I have oppressed other people. I have been manipulative. I have, you know, we all have different ways of trying to take power over another person for whatever reason. Okay, let's dive into the exercise. We're 10 minutes after 12 or the hour. And we've got about 45 minutes left. And I would love to be able to go through this with us together so that we can take it to practice and use it outside of here. So the first step is to identify a situation where we want to see change. Now, I'd love for us to come up with something to work on together here. Does anyone have any ideas? Something that could be of interest for the group to work on. And you can just put it in the chat. What's a social change issue? And again, from the micro to the macro. What is one social change issue that we can work on together today? Feel free to speak up. Just open your mic and say hello. Nobody has anything burning that they want to transform?
There's so much, and it feels like somewhat of an overwhelming question, but just thinking about what Michaela said earlier, and then I think Ben, and one other person, to focus on, or like prioritizing to some extent the people on the margins, and thinking about incarcerated people, and thinking specifically about how we, in many different countries, we incarcerate people who don't give much thought to what happens when they are released. So thinking about reintegration, integration even before incarceration, and then, you know, even alternatives to incarceration, prison abolition. So that's a macro thing. Maybe somebody could take it and make it small.
Great. So incarcerated people, I wonder if we can make it something that's a little bit more relatable to us in our daily lives. I want to say maybe just simply injustices. Maybe we see someone on the street it could be, I'm in the US right now. It could be someone who is being arrested without good reason, right? Someone who's been taken, their rights have been taken away from them without good reason. And this is, I think, you know, when we go through the penal system, we're talking about the industrial prison system. It's built in a way that not only punishes those people for the time that they're served, but also for the rest of their life. So they've been kind of unjustly punished because of all the ways the system has built that like punishment being reestablished over and over and over again. But I wonder, let's see, can we transform into something like where someone is unjustly punished? We see someone on the street that's not given their rights, and they're being, let's say, bullied. We don't even have to say that it's the prison system. Can we just say where someone is being bullied? Is that something that we could work with? And it's kind of relatable.
I think it's not that obvious because I don't think it happens that often. And it might be 10 years or 5 years. I know I felt bad for the homeless and I don't like giving money. So I started giving packets to them. And each of them have a card of the services in Tucson. They might know all the services, they might not, but something like that is much more doable because when I drive, there's usually someone homeless and I have it in my car. I can carry with me, but I haven't. But something like that, that's much more doable.
Okay, great. And actually, Natanya, I see that bridge between what Isabel just shared, the suggestion Isabel made, and yours is the idea that oftentimes the people, our unhoused neighbors, are also in a similar situation, right? Once you become homeless, there are a ton of barriers to you being able to get back on your feet that are part of the systems and structures in place here. What else? Anyone else have any ideas on what to work on together? We should dive in. Kunal, I see your finger.
So I think it integrates the case that was just discussed as well, the macro to the micro of that. But I was in a workshop yesterday, I think, on NVC workshop about dissolving enemy images, and I was just thinking on how when we even in this example, when we try to punish somebody, or our system does it for us for the most parts. It's about it's about an identity that's created of them, that's quote unquote harmful or dangerous or problematic, and then irrespective of the depth of what created that activity or that identity and how it can be immediately transformed, if not like through some support and connection, that identity persists way beyond its purpose. And I guess we can integrate that here on how that happens with us, from like people who hurt us to the people that we hurt. And then we are limited to those identities. If we integrate the othering part of it, which is the root of the harm that is continued, you know, in initial ruptures can be purely accidental. I'd say for the most part, in my understanding, they're mostly accidental and misunderstood, quote unquote. But eventually, once we repeat that narrative long enough, we take away agency more and more for transformation for everyone involved. So, yeah, I'd love to have that integrated.
Great. And that the idea of moving from the micro to the macro, I really want something that we have is it within our locus of control that to work with. And the idea of moving from the micro to the macro being a ripple effect, but also we want to be able to have these conversations when we leave here, right? So whether that's with someone who villainizes or has an excuse me, why can't I say it?
Enemy.
That's so funny. An enemy
Lovely.
image of what it means to be recently incarcerated or be houseless and living on the streets. So
I have a very fun micro example of that policing system that happens with us. I think most of us would be able to relate to that. I'd like to imagine you as in a classroom where there's a teacher and you've been quote unquote punished for being too loud or too messy. And at that point, you were just trying to connect with your friends or maybe doing some mischief and whatnot. And when the teacher comes as an authority figure and then puts you in punishment, it's a kind of shock that you receive. And then everybody sees you differently. And I feel like that mirrors a lot of what happens on a large scale with that incarceration system that we have. It's really traumatic for the child and the children involved. There's a sense of discipline, which is similar, and there's a sense of authoritarian control instead of understanding. So maybe we can work with that example.
Hmm. Yeah. An authority in a classroom setting or even just in a group where someone is trying to take power over others.
Absolutely.
Our parents too.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Could be them.
Yes, let's do that, Anna-Laura. That sounds great. Let's go with like our primary care, um, like who were our primary caregivers and the power that they took over us, and when it was not acknowledging our freedom to choose, let's consider a conversation with them. And we could even pretend like we're a small child. You know, we could be like, I'm a kid and I want to go to this birthday party, but mom says no because I didn't do my homework. Right. So let's do that because that'll be fun. And I really want it to be playful. As we go through the exercise, because it's going to be like we're not going to get to the role play today because we've had such a rich discussion, which is wonderful. But we will be able to come into the next session with the role play and be able to apply it. And I really like the playfulness of pretending like we're kids. So let's take ourselves back to when we were children and our primary caregivers were not listening to what we needed and what we wanted. And does someone have an example that they can use to share that fits this scenario? And we don't have to go into the story. So instead of going into the story, because it's something we don't have to do when we're going through this process, we can just acknowledge what judgments we may have, what assumptions we may be making, and then the judgments they may have and the assumptions they may be making when our caregiver wants to take power over us. And then we think about the needs and the feelings. So really focusing on the needs. We're not going to do much empathetic support here or empathic support here, but we're just going to focus on what are the needs that we have? What are the needs that our caregivers have?
I have an example. I have a situation that comes to my mind. In short, it just looks like maybe a teenage kid, and it's late evening. They're in their home with their parents, and they go to their dad or their mom or whoever is the one available, and they say that have a friend's party, a couple of blocks away, and it's going to be like really fun. Everyone in my classroom is going to be there, and we're planning to stay up late and watch some movies or something like that. And I want to stay over at their place, And you've heard of this friend, I've talked about him here and there, and I'd love to go. And the parent then receives that, is kind of taken aback at the sound of the word stay over, that the child might not be coming back, and then just says, no, you know? And I guess we can pick it up from there, how that go.
It's great. So what are the needs? What are the needs of the child? And what are the needs of let's start with the child. What are the needs of the child in the scenario?
I guess the couple of things that I can see is that there's a need for play, which is one of the core needs that we all have, irrespective of our age. Then there's the need for social connection, connecting deeper with the people that he's around in school and that form his social circle, right? There's that. There's a need for autonomy, to be able to make one's own choices and to have agency in those choices. Then there could be a need for support from parents as they're about to embark into what sounds exciting, but can be there's a vivid spectrum on how that could turn out. So there's a need for support from the parent, the caregiver. That's what's on the top of my head, at least. Yeah.
Great. Any more? Any other needs that you hear? Any like pressing, really predominant needs? I also hear like fairness. He wants to just be a kid,
Mm,
to play with his kid friends and be treated like the rest of them. So mutuality and fairness.
yeah. I also see the need for like exploring life, exploration, new experiences. Sounds like that kid has never been to that sort of a thing and he's fascinated by it. So the curiosity that comes with exploration, yeah. That
Mm. Okay, so Kunal, would you mind typing those into the chat just so we have the ones that you
sure,
shared?
sure.
We've got fairness, play, social connection, autonomy, support, mutuality, and curiosity. Anything else? Any other needs that come up when we think about if we were a child and we were wanting to negotiate with their parents about going to play and stay the night at a sleepover that was, with friends, and the parent says no. What other needs come up? Okay, what about the needs for the parent? If any other needs come up, feel free to speak them out. What are the needs for the parent in the situation? I mean, understanding actually was another one for the child. Like, why? Why just no? So what are the needs for the parent?
The parent, I could see my mother wanting safety. She doesn't want to have a sleepover party and have all these kids in her house.
So the parent, the caregiver has the need for safety for the child.
I can't, no, her own safety.
Oh,
It does not want to have a party, return the favor.
okay.
My mother.
I'm having a hard time drawing a line there to understand how safety relates for the parent.
I'm
But
not sure it's safety, but she doesn't want to have to redo the event at our house.
Owning something to them.
What?
To owe something to them. Yeah, I hear that too. I wouldn't say that. Maybe that's like a reciprocity.
Reciprocity, but safety, like, because I don't think she feels safe in herself to say no. I'm not doing this. Or I don't know. I think safety's involved, but I don't know what fully.
Okay. Well, let's
Maybe you're right, but my safety at times, I mean, not me getting hurt, but emotional safety. And maybe that's what I'm talking about. My mother's, she'll have to do all this work. She'll have to be bothered.
Okay, what else? What else? When you hear the no coming from the parent's mouth, what are their needs behind that no?
I have a thought under just the safety angle that the parent may be trying to keep the child safe. It may be a misguided attempt, and that was often the case in my family. It was a misguided attempt, but I think that they had my safety in mind when they did that. They just didn't have a clue as to how.
Yeah. So say the child is an extension of themselves and wanting to keep the child safe. And I see that relates actually with what Natanya says. And also what comes up for me now as I think about it more, Natanya, is the idea of boundaries. Like the parent has a need to have good boundaries around what they're willing to do for the child, what they're allowing the child to
Yeah,
do. Back to that
yeah,
mutuality.
yeah. Yeah. Even if they have no boundaries themselves,
Yeah.
or no concept of boundaries, it's just, this child is mine. I'm going to keep him safe, period.
Yeah.
Authoritarian, that's no boundaries there.
Great.
If he feels overwhelmed with the idea, I'm assuming that would be, I'm not sure what the need would be.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
need
And that's what I think what David shared in the chat is about maintaining capacity. That's very much with what you said, Natanya. Isabel, I heard you. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I was thinking about the need for ease.
Mm-hmm.
I have a kid that age, stay over age, and I think when Natanya was talking about having to reciprocate and going through all that stuff, and you were talking about the capacity, the need for ease definitely comes up.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, and then that's like also willingness and capacity, right? Like the parent has to be willing and able to be able to provide, whether it's supporting the child by transportation or being able to accept the call in the middle of the night because the kid's wet the bed and they have to run over and get him or whatever. There's a lot of different variables involved, but I think like willingness and capacity as a part of that, like the need to be able to want that for the child and then also be able to provide that for the child. Anything
And
else?
Yeah, Amber, you can go ahead.
okay.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's really maybe it's like communion, collaboration, and connection even, which is obviously, but no. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I see a need for clarity as well, for the
Mm.
parent. There could be the amount of information that's given might not be enough for them to be clear on what the possibilities of the night are. And of course, it directly connects to safety, but clarity in itself, it feels like a need for me.
Great. Laura, I see your hand.
I was thinking predictability, stability, and ease.
Great. Okay, so I'm putting the ones that we just came up with.
Would control be a need too?
In control, there are needs. Within control, the need for, I think, the predictability, stability, safety would be within that. Anything else that you can think of that may be within the need for, or the idea, because that's like a thought, the thought for wanting control of a situation. Okay, so now we have some needs for both parties. Now we can think about, just let's take 2 minutes and think about situations that are similar to the one that we're talking about now. It could be to do with, a parental caregiver or and child relationship. It could be to do with our relationship with our boss. It could be to do with being in a group of friends and someone wanting to make decisions for everyone, right? This example is an example that demonstrates when one individual in a relationship is trying to make a decision on the free will of another. And again, we're talking about a kid here, so the child isn't really necessarily with full free will. But if we were living in a family where the caregivers are really wanting to give the child like full responsibility and capacity to make decisions for themselves, then it could be relatable. Anyway, just trying to broaden our understanding of what we're working with so we can apply it to other things. What are some of the examples that you have in your mind? And just think about it. We don't have to share it. You can type it in the chat. But where you can relate to having these needs unmet? The need for predictability, the need for stability, the need for safety, the need for being able to maintain our capacity. to be able to take responsibility for the things we're responsible for, the need for fairness, the need for support, the need for understanding. Just try to take yourself into your memories and think about different examples to relate. And now kind of the main course for this exercise is to come up with requests that incorporate both of the needs. Because that's where when we'll get to a place where we're recognizing what's alive in all the parties involved and trying to care for all the different parts of us that are alive, right? I have a need for safety. How do we care for that need for safety? I have a need for autonomy. I have a need for fairness. How do we care for those needs for autonomy and fairness? So if we're the child in the situation and we want to make a request of the parent, how can we make a request that starts to consider the needs that they have as well as the needs that we have?
I have a request here. Can we start with the parent instead? Because it feels like more caring if the parent is the one making those assessments first and then extending those requests to the child, rather than the child having to, do that all in their own heads and then try to make the parent understand. I'd love for us to start with the parent, but I'm okay either way if you want to explore the other one. But yeah,
I'm
that's
open
just a
to it.
request I have.
Does anyone have any hard no's against starting with the parent? Do you have a request that you were thinking of as you were trying to envision being the parent in that situation, Kanal? Or anyone else,
Oh,
please?
oh yeah. Not just not a particular request, but I have a feeling on how I would love to, start that conversation with a kid, you know. Um, I request them for the possibility of connection, direct contact with the children that they're going to play with, and the parents of the kid that the house, where the stayover is going to happen.
Mm.
So, if they're comfortable sharing that, then I could form like a deeper sense of inquiry with the parent and the people more responsible, quote unquote, for the whole experience,
Sounds
sharing
like
that responsibility with them directly. Yeah.
it sounds like you're wanting to build trust that your child is going to be
Yes.
safe. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. I think we're gonna nominate you for the role play, not Kanal. I hope you'll be interested.
I am.
Good. Okay, and what about from the child's perspective? We just want to think about it because we're gonna go into the role play next, and then we're gonna just play it out in real time. The trick is, though, for me, in preparation for these challenging conversations where we're trying to make some kind of change happen, is to do the homework of identifying the needs that are on your side and the ones the other person could potentially have, and then formulate requests that you can present that are including both. And that's going to really support that other person or other people being open to hearing what it is you're suggesting or the ideas that you may want to share. So from the child's perspective, do you think the child could formulate some kind of understanding of the parent's care and concern? I don't think it's about necessarily too much about maybe it's about having control. But if we're giving the parent the benefit of the doubt, what's underneath of that, right? Is really like a care. It's coming from a place of love and wanting to support the child, make sure it's going to be safe. And that's the part of the enemy, dissolving the enemy images, right? How do we transform that villain of a parent that says, no, God, what do you mean, mom and dad? What do you mean, auntie? You know, like, and then you hate them, and the rest of your teenage life is like to retaliate against their nose. But how can we transform that villain into someone that's like their intention? But then again, like Michaela said earlier, what's the impact of their intention? How is that affecting me? How can we balance both? Bring both of them to the conversation.
An
Okay.
interesting thing just came to my mind. I guess it'll help all the needs met. I guess there's a sense of urgency that's created when the child is saying that, I have to go in 2 hours. Like there's not enough space to explore that together. And there's a sort of a pre-made decision that the child comes with. So maybe, of course, in the future, involving the parent as soon as there's something in the works that involves deeper communication. But even in that instance, understanding that that might be, out of routine, and there might be a lot of accommodations that the parent has to make. So for that, they take some time and have a proper conversation, which is which does include the possibility of hearing a no from the parent. I don't know if that's expecting too much from a child, but I guess that it is something that we should be integrating at all levels of age. The integration of rejection or whatever, not getting exactly what you want, the strategy versus the need thing, right?
Mm.
And then maybe connecting on how those needs can be met in different ways.
Yeah, and one of the things that come up for me, well, two things actually. One is that consent before these conversations is really important, right? How much time do you have to talk about this? Can we take 30 minutes? Are you available for lunch? When, really clear about the boundaries of what you're asking from the other person. And then in response to that, the parent could say, no, but in the future, if you ask me within, 2 days in advance, then we'll have some time to talk about it and we can consider it. But as a side note or a caveat, I know I've been in this situation before where I've given my mother very little time to make a decision on whether or not I could do something. And it was from a place of manipulation. I was trying to put her in a place where she had to say yes or no, and she didn't have time to think about it. Like I was intentionally putting her in a challenging spot because I knew she didn't have the capacity to really think about it. And she was just, instead of having to argue with me, she was just going to let me go. So that's like,
That
can't think
becomes a strategy. That's a very common strategy that children use.
yes, they're
Yeah.
all angels as children, that's for sure. Okay, so now let's get to the role play. We only have about 15 minutes left. I would love it if we could have 2 volunteers and I can kind of help coach you through this process. Kunal, did you say you would be happy to be one of the players? Thank you.
Yep. I'm game.
Would anyone else be open to it?
Into volunteering.
Yes. Patrick, I have a request from you. Is there I'm having a hard time understanding you clearly with I think your
Oh,
headphone.
excuse me. Yeah, headphones. Excuse me. We can let me just put them away and see if
Speak into the computer microphone, maybe that'll work.
For now.
Ah, that's great, clear.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna spotlight both of you. Is that okay for you? Thumbs up if it's okay. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, so do you have a preference on which player you want to be?
I don't.
I'd like to be the parent because I've always been the child. So it'd be a good switch of, like perspectives.
Okay, I'm happy to be the kid.
Great. And now you have kind of the backstory already of what we're dealing with. And you're coming into this both, and this is something to consider. You're both coming into this with the willingness and capacity to hear the other person and an openness to work with them. This is a very important consideration to have in every single social change conversation that we want to go into. If the other person has no capacity, willingness, or interest to be in relationship with us or to change their behavior, then we're like talking to a brick wall.
I'm so sorry. Do you mind just giving, just because I want to make sure I'm on the exact same page. Would you mind just giving like a 2-sentence brief description of the exact sort of role I'll be playing?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, Patrick, you are a teenage child and you have, or a teenage human person, we'll say that. And you've asked your parents if you can go to a sleepover
Okay.
where there will be movies and you'll stay up late with your friends at your friend's house. And Kunal is the parent and he says no.
Okay.
And so now you're starting a discussion around, you're trying to change your caregiver Kunal's perspective on the situation so that they change their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to do this in a way that incorporates the feelings, the needs, not only your needs, but the needs that they have by coming up with some requests that will incorporate both of what's, what's in live in both of you. And as you go through this, it's just a conversation, right? So you're trying to explore what are the caregiver's needs? And then you want to share what's going on for you. And then as you go through this conversation of understanding what's going on for the other person, then maybe a request will come to the surface.
Perfect. And where in the conversation are we dropping in?
Kunal has just said no.
Okay.
And action.
One small question before we go ahead. I'm so sorry.
That's
Do we
okay.
use our names or can we pick different names? Either ways, I'm okay either
You
way.
can
But
just
I'd
call me
love to
PJ.
hear Patrick. Okay, PJ, and you can call me KJ. That works, I guess, for me.
Okay.
Or just K. K works as well. If KJ is like whatever. So okay, let's go. No, I don't think that I'm comfortable with you going on that sleepover uh, today of all days. I would have liked to be informed on a different day, and maybe we could have talked about this, but it just feels too urgent right now. You see where I'm coming from, PJ?
I hear that you wanted some more time to think about it, and the fact that you're not getting time to kind of sit with it makes you feel like you can't come to a decision.
No, I've made a decision, and that's a no. I'm not going to be moving ahead with this. I do not consent to this, and that is the decision that comes up with the time frame that you've given me. Also, I don't know these friends of yours that you're mentioning. Are they in your class? Are they in your school? And how many of them? There's so much missing information here. How do you expect me to just like? It would be a lack of care for me to just just let you move through this without me getting in touch with any of that.
I see. So it sounds like you need more information about so you're more comfortable to kind of see who's going to be there, maybe what we're going to be doing, um, when you can expect us to like things like that.
Yeah, but more than that, I'm surprised by this request, PJ. I'd love to know why you want to go. What what attracts you to this sort of an event? Because I haven't seen you, talk about something like this or ask us to host some of your friends over. This sounds new to me. So can you tell me what is exciting about this to you?
I think I have I want to kind of be with these people. I want to be kind of accepted and friends with them. And I'm fearful that if I like don't go and I don't see them, then maybe I'll be on the outs.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Okay, I get some of it now. I get that. Yeah, feeling connected to your friends, that's important, especially the people that you spend your time with, your day with. Yeah, and you can feel left out if they go ahead do something fun without you. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit more about where this is going to be and maybe some details, and then maybe we can see if there's a possibility of executing some way.
Of course, yeah. I think one of the reasons I'm just bringing this to you right now is because honestly, I was just invited. Um,
Okay.
I'm a little kind of afraid that uh I won't be invited if I'm if I don't if I or I won't be invited back if I don't go this time.
I hear you. I hear you. And sounds like as much as you're excited about this, there's a fear involved in this uh, new thing that's in front of you. Yeah, I see that. And I'd like to remind you that as much as I understand what you're going through right now, we're here for you, and um, I feel that you're a lovely kid, and um, I think even if you might not be able to connect with these people, say whatever possibility you brought out may come true. I think you'd find friends that you can connect deeply with who do not base their criteria on one event or such, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? I feel like I don't think it all banks on this, but is that something that you feel, or do you still feel that it's really important for you to show up today in that setting? And
I
you can take
feel
your
like it's
time.
in
I'm here with you. You can take your time.
yeah. I feel like it's important um for me to go. And it's important to me that you guys, my parents, think that I'm a great kid and that like I'm not gonna have a hard time finding friends. Um, I'm 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 glad you see me that way. I I I want other people to see me that way. I want my peers to see me that way, and
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I'm afraid they won't.
Okay. I see that. I see that. What I feel is that you might just be connecting to these people, and of course, things like connection and understanding each other takes time. So, I'm sure we'll explore that as you move ahead through this class and whatnot. Can you tell me a little bit more about the couple of friends that are hosting this event? How you know them? How close they are to you? What you share with them? What you like about them? Just something to fill me in. I'd love to get to know them.
Yeah, so I know them from swim team. We are all in the
Okay.
same lane. We all practice in the same lane. And I swim some relays with them. Um, and as you know, I've been becoming like a faster and faster swimmer. So I just kind of just a couple of weeks ago, I was able to move up to this lane. Um, they're um, they're all in my grade. Um, yeah, yeah, and I'd be more than happy to I'd be more than happy to talk with them and see if the parent who's hosting, I can give them your contact information.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it sounds like I don't feel as strongly about a no as I did when this information was sprung upon me.
Mhm.
So let's get in touch with your friends, and then I'd love to get in touch with their parents. And if that works out well, then maybe I can arrange to drop you out there, and we'll get you ready to go. Thank you for taking this time with me. It means a
Thank
lot that
you.
you explained all of that to me.
Awesome. Thanks.
I feel better. Thank you.
End
And I'm
scene.
excited for you now. Now that I connect to this thing, I'm excited for you.
Mm,
Guys, celebration for our actors.
yeah.
Good job. So could you feel? It was like I felt the energy. God, Kunal, you like turned completely 180 degrees. But yeah, how was that? How was
Felt a
that to?
lot of movement inside me. I
Yeah.
felt like all the responsibility just came to my shoulders alone. And then I had to navigate the vulnerability of the kid while not missing out any cues on, safety and all the loopholes that the child won't be able to see. But it's my responsibility as a parent to be there to catch them, for all of that. So I felt a lot of energy shift. And then, yeah, I guess all my drive was to be able to connect deeper with PJ. So I guess that's what allowed me to move through those muddy waters. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally was a little surprised at like how, and I mean I definitely like kind of filled in some gaps with my own like personal life as we went on. I was like kind of surprised at like just based on my own experiences as a kid, how quickly I was able to plug into this sense of like I like I need this and I need sort of just being a kid and just being like, every social event, every friendship just feels like such a huge deal. And you're so afraid to like rock the boat because you don't necessarily have the skills or the the fully developed frontal lobe to like navigate conflicts as they come up. Yeah.
I really loved how you were like, no, I have to go right now. Like this party means a lot. It was like and I felt like if it were me in that situation, I would have totally been the same way. It's like, no, really, right now it's so important.
Yeah.
And that frontal lobe development point that you just made, PJ, is just like huge, right? Because gosh, they're saying now it's like 27 years old by the time
27, 28. Yeah. Yep.
developed. So just thinking about all that, the value of co-regulation, the value of having that support system, the value of being able to be in relationship with caregivers that can hold us when we're emotionally overwhelmed, and how essential that is for us to be able to take care of ourselves, and how it impacts if we haven't had those opportunities to co-regulate and the support system, how it impacts us, for the rest of our lives. So holding space for that too, right? Holding space for the others that have maybe those situations, and using that as a way of empathizing with individuals that may not be able to be completely with capacity to go through this kind of process with us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we only have a few minutes left. I would love it if there's anything else to be shared. And Laura, I see your hand.
Just a question. I don't know if there's time for this, but if not, that's fine too. I was just changing my view here so I can view people. When we were previously thinking about needs of child and parent, I perhaps it was my understanding, but I had a little bit of a difficulty to find a name, let's say a word for the needs of the parent in this case. And I heard Kunal saying something that I think is very interesting. He felt all responsibility on his shoulders, either of the yes or the no. How could we translate that to a need? Is there a name for this need? I don't know, need of what? Being a good
I think I
parent? That's
have,
not a need,
yeah,
is it?
I think I have, the closest approximation that comes to my mind is
Mm,
that there's a deep need for support because as they say, it takes a village to raise a child, right? The
mm,
responsibility of childbearing is primarily quote unquote on the parent, but there are so many variables that impact the direction of a child's growth and development that I think it's really, really important for the parent to be connected to as many aspects of that as possible and, not feel like they're the only one responsible. Instead, have like a community and support that guides all of, I feel like the trust and like the safety net that there is for a child then directly correlates to the less and less anxiety that a parent feels and the more and more freedom that the parent can explore on how they specifically would like to connect to the child. Otherwise the overwhelm of like the hard safety things itself is enough to like make the parent shift into that you know that role, that limited role, as even though they might want to be completely them in front of their child and connect deeper every day. It requires that support, I feel. Without that, it's not possible,
I
especially not
I
at the pace of the lives that we have. Yeah.
I think something I really plugged into and I wasn't really thinking about, but something I really plugged into while we were doing the role play was you have a need to be seen for someone as someone who cares. You're not saying no because you're like you're not saying no because you like just don't want me to have any fun or you don't care about me. You're saying no because it does come from a place of caring very deeply about my well-being. Um, yeah.
And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, is it okay if I go ahead, Leanne?
Actually,
Yeah.
we're at time, so I
Okay.
just want to do a quick
Sure.
closing and then we can stay here for another 10 minutes and
Of
share.
course, of course.
Um, yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the sharing, the support, the collaboration. I just want to bring our attention back to my website. If you want, you can sign up to be on listserv. If you register for this, you'll get an email with the recording available to review. And you'll be entered into the listserv as part of the registration, but you're always welcome to take yourself off. Just shoot a quick reply back email saying, I don't want to be included anymore, and I'll remove you from our messages. And it's only once every few weeks usually, or once a week on average, about our events. You can also sign up on the website to get to download the events calendar. So you'll be able to see our weekly empathy cafe that we have, where we support each other through empathetic listening. And that's kind of like building that muscle that we were talking about, being able to understand what's going on for the other person in a way that helps to soften the upset that we have when something comes up and there's a conflict between us. And that's it. Thank you so much for everyone, and look forward to another opportunity to connect again. We'll be in the empathy gathering on Sunday if you want to join us for that. You can find the information on the website. And yeah, let's continue to share. Anything else anybody wants to share? I would love to hear a couple more voices, and Kunal, we'll come back to you if that's okay. Liz, I see your hand.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this example we had and how it is related to social change, and I really resonated because that's a change I want to see in the world. Like well, there are so many elements, but like the power over structure between adults, caregivers, teachers, parents to children, and how that affects and also reproduces in our other systems where there's these power over structures. So it starts at home, I would say. And then also the frustration about the kids not finding what they want, but also what Kunal said about like it taking a tribe or a village to raise a child. So how can we change those structures which put the responsibility on parents? I being a mother myself, I have been a teacher, a school teacher too. So that's like a big burden, I would say. It's very heavy. So this is like all related to a social change that we could start looking forward. And it starts with ourselves. I worked like in myself as a mother, and then I started having like a rippling effect in my children, and then other people started joining. So I think we can do like very daily practical things, starting from here, starting at home, even starting in ourselves. So that kind of connects it to the whole idea of social change. I see a lot of possibilities to listen to children more, to support parents, to have more space to make decisions. So I really liked seeing like the example connected to social change.
Thank you for bringing us back home, Liz. Thank you very much. Anything else?
Can I make a question to Kunal? Because I just didn't quite understand. I just want to clarify if I understood it correctly. When you said about support or creating a safety net, what were you talking about? About like talking to other parents, obviously towards your child, you would say just a yes or no, whatever. But then you would, is this what you mean by support, by having whatever, I don't know, your partner or other parents? Is this what you mean?
So basically, the one word that comes to me as I have identified is which is the safety net for everybody, and across all barriers of like identities. It's connection, and that connection creates a psychological space for us that allows us to feel safe even when there's threats present in the environment and there's nothing changing about that. So that connection, when that is extended from, like, it's there need not be necessarily a locus of control, a locus of that connection, like the source from which is coming. It's just a web between the parent, the child, other parents, every adult involved in this process, other children involved, of course, everybody, chiming in their own ways and their own perspectives, but the flow between them, so that you have this sense of, I guess, an idea in your head that if something pops up, whoever is involved and is relevantly, has some agency there, will take the steps necessary that are life affirming. So yes, it involves everybody, and it can be as extensive as you'd like it to be. But the root still is connection, feeling seen and then seeing the other.
And I thought when I saw your energy change, Kunal, I saw also how you were holding the energy between you and PJ, and you said something like, "It's okay, I'm here with you. You can take your time." And that like I felt like that really, that allowed PJ to think about what he needed to think about to be able to prepare how he was going to respond to your question. And in turn, I thought that was also you saying that to yourself.
Absolutely. That's a need that I feel that solves like 80% of the problems that we have in interpersonal conflicts. That we rush everything, and sometimes the rush is driven by external deadlines. But a lot of the times, that rush is driven by our internal sense of uncertainty that just wants the thing to happen, just because we think that that outcome, that specific outcome, is the only way that we're going to feel like, fine, things are happening my way, so it's fine types. So when we introduce space in safety, I'd like to remind myself and everyone that that space can only be taken in the presence of like a safe and loving connection. When somebody whom you don't want to talk to asks you to, take some time, that feels like the threat being extended. Imagine like a parent who's not listening to their child but is telling them that, I'll take my time. That time just feels like more drag for the child. Is it okay if I loop this back to what I was wanting to say back then before you close the session?
Please.
Yeah. So, uh, of course, we started this example as, like a snapshot in between the relationship of the parent-child and like an example. But I'd love to bring to everyone's attention that that kind of communication happening then, of course, you might encounter it and you might want to resolve it then and there, but that's reflective of a much, much deeper disconnection, not dangerously so. And I mean, I'm not pointing it as inflammatory, but yes, there's a deeper disconnection there between the parent and the child, in which the child has, come up to the parent in a rebellious kind of a way and not a warm and welcoming invitation, just like how he would have felt excited about the invite and extended that, oh, I'm so excited to go here, or like, this happened today. And that seemed to be lacking there. And of course, you can start repair from that point, but it has to go deeper than that. When the parent tries to go deeper into why that came up with urgency and how they can overall just have a sense of connection with all the systems involved that the child is, going through, so that it's, yeah,
Thank you. Then it goes back to the co-regulation, like being able to be
yeah,
them and having, them feeling confident and safe to be able to present ideas to you in a way that's supportive of a discussion where you can work together to come to a solution that's going to help to serve both.
absolutely.
Thanks, Kunal. Anna, I see your hand.
Yes, I want to add to this or said that for me it was difficult because I don't have a child, and for me it is difficult to imagine what my parents can feel when I ask them to go somewhere, and I remember that they didn't agree, but I do whatever I want, and I didn't care what they think about it. They told me you can't go, and I go there no matter what, So I was very rebellious child. And the other thing, what the PJs told when I will talk with my parents as PJ, so I should have more argued to my parents to prove that I can go to the party. It is not I have need to go to the party. No, what you are do to that you deserve to go to the party and have some fun. You should, I don't know, hard work in the school. It is not so easy, that I can, Mom, please, I want to go to the party. Oh, we need to talk about it. Oh my God. Then in my mind will appear, probably my mother said no to me. And then I should be, an adult person if they will talk with me like the equal, like here adults talking with the adults. But when I'm responsible for the child, I'm also working in a school, so I can't agree on the every idea what the children have, because I know that they can be very naughty, or do some things by accident, and all everything can happen, when they are somewhere else, and I need to take care of their safetyness. My safetyness is important as an adult, but their safetyness are more important than mine. So it is two things, yes, I have, in this situation. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, that brings up a couple of very important or interesting things to think about, and how does that manifest if we are that rebellious child that's not listening to the parent or the caregiver? How does that manifest in real life scenarios of us living in in the world that we live in? right? Am I going to just not follow the rules? Sometimes. Yeah, but sometimes there's penalties, right? Like what are the repercussions or the punishments associated, and are they harmful, harsh enough? Is there monitoring, right? Is there monitoring enforcement of these rules? And how does that impact me? So this is like, these are just considerations in the worlds that we live in, and if we can have the conversations and challenge the others who are trying to control us, then maybe we can get to a place of spaciousness where it feels liberating, right? We start to really become free, because I can be free in a world full of rules that I don't listen to, but if there's a potential for punishment, in the back of my mind, I'm always going to have a little bit of fear. So how do we, like the intention is a pursuit of liberation for the child, for the little child in us, in a world that's constantly trying to parent us. And having those challenging conversations can really empower us. Anna, I see your hand again. Is that from earlier?
Yes, I want to add something that, yes, something dangerous can happen to me. And I experienced difficult things because I was not listening my parents. So now I know that some children also can feel rebellious, but they will take the consequences on their lives. So yes, there are no action without consequences. So you always take consequences, whatever you do, whatever your decision. If you're a child or you're an adult, you need to think twice before you do something, because you're gonna have the consequences of this decision. Thank you very much. That's all.
Yeah, and if we could think about it with respect to the needs, right? If I do this, I'll meet certain needs, but if I don't do this, then what needs am I going to meet? Because we're always meeting some needs in every situation, and a lot of times, almost always, we're not meeting all of our needs. So it's like a prioritization. What's the most important to me in the situation? And I saw Amber's hand, but it looks like Amber is done. So, oh, wait. She just arrived to the waiting room. Let's see. I'm gonna take, oh, Mike, I'll take your hand, and then we'll do Ambra, and then we're gonna close out because I need to have lunch and I'm feeling a bit tired.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to say something about the word consequences.
Mhm.
You know, I do agree with Anna that every action has consequences. Whatever I decide to do, but that doesn't mean that the consequences are necessarily bad. I think that growing up, I had this idea consequences bad, stuck in my head, and that's not necessarily so. There could be very positive consequences to my choices, and I just want to make that point. Thanks.
And that's for me also, in closing us out today. Even if we're struggling with a conflict and it's seemingly overwhelming, one of the techniques that I use is going to a place of gratitude and recognizing what the needs that I am meeting, what are the needs that I'm meeting in the situation? How am I still fulfilling some part of me, as a way of kind of just bringing some relief. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's only a part of myself. It's only this one particular situation. It's not everything. And it can really, for me, it's really helpful to bring me some relief when I feel like there's something that's just overwhelming me, and sometimes I internalize it so much that it feels like the whole world is against me. Amber, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for that. And I try to figure out if in reality, when I'm with my parents or with my boss or whatever, there are so much terror that I didn't have aware before. Right now, yes, that even if I have awareness that maybe, I don't know, someone do some pressure with me, I'm not completely in freedom to say, you know, it's even if I know, maybe I call a lawyer and I know my right and whatever, I'm not able to, you know, because there is so much trauma around put boundary, and there is so much shock that I have to be in compassion with myself, because when I see Kunal and the other guys do that, you know, was like, oh, it can be good to have conversation like that. You know, there is a lot of space here. But to be honest, inside me, when I have this kind of conversation, there is some, oh my God, you know, some trouble around the, authority figure. And yeah, you know, sometimes it's exhausting. Someone, you know, I try to do a lot of work around that, but it's never enough because there is some traumatized child inside me that I have to compassion, that when happen what happen, I can really be free to say what I want to say. And yeah, I'm exhausted. Yeah, I would like to have the same space that I see today. That is my comment.
Thank you very much. That's a great place to end. And one of the things that's important to keep in mind that was written in the worksheet is doing this, you know, self-empathy beforehand, empathizing with the other person beforehand, mourning the unmet needs to a place where we don't feel as reactive. We've softened to them. We've turned, you know, they're no longer an enemy to us. And we've softened our perception of them in a way that helps us recognize that they're just trying to meet their needs too. Now, the world that we live in, there are people that are really intentionally trying to stop us from meeting our needs. There are people that are, and we didn't talk about it today, we will talk about it soon. You know, there are situations where this doesn't work, this strategy. And there are situations where someone is trying to manipulate us and stop us from being able to be liberated and free. And so that's just something to keep in mind. And in those situations, there's got to be other solutions, and we'll talk about those as we move through, you know, this community. We'll work on that together in the future. But there's a really beautiful quote I'd like to share. I hope I can find it. Let's see. I don't know if I'll have it in time. Okay. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's from Nelson Mandela. And he said, nonviolent passive resistance is effective as long as your opposition adheres to the same rules as you do. But if peaceful protest is met with violence, its efficacy is at an end. For me, nonviolence was not a moral principle, but a strategy. There is no moral goodness in using an ineffective weapon.
Thank you. That was really powerful. I'd love to end it on that and then pick it up. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank
We'll
you.
continue to work on this so that we can find more opportunities to make the changes we need to be able to care for ourselves and feel like we're free.
Thank you. Thank you for the workshops.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But can I have this Sunday there is a practice of group or no this Sunday? There is. Okay. It's twice a month.
The
in
empathy
the
almost every week. Sometimes I'll take off, but mostly every week.
Okay.
And this is about every 3 weeks. I'll send out the invitation for the next one the next day or two when I send the recording around.
That's lovely.
Thank you so much.
Really lovely. Thank you all. And thank you, Leanne, for organizing.
Pleasure. Okay, I'm going to end it
so
here.
much, everybody. It's been lovely. Thank you so much for having me and being here with me. See you soon.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Ciao, Liz. Ciao, Ambra. Ciao, Anna. Ciao, Natanya.
See you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.